All right, this is Professor Jackson again here, showing you key features of the central nervous system. So we're going to cover these as part of lab exam number 4. And we're going to divide the anatomy we talk about in lab into the brain here in these first 20, all right? And then this next group of 11 will be parts of the spinal cord. So remember that the brain and the spinal cord are a continuous organ, but in these models, we're going to break it up into the brain model and showing a small portion of the spinal cord. All right, so the brain model looks like this. It says 3B on the front. And the first term is the cerebrum. So the cerebrum is this entire area here, that all these folds, the gyri, and it can be divided into the right and left hemispheres. Okay, you can see right here, this is the dividing line between the two hemispheres. All right, so if we pick up the model, we can tell the difference in the anterior and posterior portion based on where we have the brainstem, so this region right in here, and the cerebellum. All right, so we'll go ahead and start with the cerebellum. That's actually the 17th thing on your list. That's number 35 right there. So that's these two dark brown regions on the posterior portion, on the back portion of the brain. Okay, so it looked kind of like this, where this is going to head down towards the spine for this individual, and this is towards the face. This is towards the back. This is towards the face. All right. So to go through and find each lobe, let's just start with number 1. All right, and on the model it's labeled as number 1. That's the frontal lobe. So if you remember, we talked about in class, the first 4 of the 5 lobes of the brain are going to be named based on the bone they sit just deep to. So superficial to the frontal lobe, so the frontal lobe is on both sides here, both hemispheres. It's only labeled on one hemisphere here. So superficial to this frontal lobe would be the frontal bone sitting right here. All right, so as we move a little more posterior, you can see number 2, this area, again on both hemispheres, but it's only labeled on this hemisphere. Number 2 is the parietal lobe. Okay, so that's just deep to the parietal bone on either side. And then here near the back, number 3 here, and number 3 down here at the bottom, this whole area is the occipital lobe. So again, that's deep to the occipital bone. All right, and then number 4 on the side, deep to the temporal bone, is going to be the temporal lobe. All right, in just a minute, we'll jump in and look at number 14, which is going to be deep for the insula. But right now, since we're looking on the surface, a little more superficially, let's go ahead and talk about numbers 5, 6, and 7 on the model. All right. So number 5, you can see again here is labeled only on one hemisphere, but number 5 actually goes all the way across here. And we talked about the word fissure versus sulcus. So this is the central sulcus. All right, number 5. And then if you go just to this gyrus that's just anterior, this is called the precentral gyrus. And then the gyrus that's just posterior here, number 7, would be the postcentral gyrus. And we've talked about some of those functions in class. So number 5 all the way across would be the central sulcus. Number 6, this gyrus that goes all the way across, would be the pre-central gyrus. And then this number 7 that goes all the way across is the post-central gyrus.